So once again, it's Thursday ahead of the Thursday night football game. We are now picking games for week 11. So if you're new here, this is the board. Got all the games listed up here for this upcoming week in the NFL, and I'm going to be picking the winner of every single one. And yeah, so you can criticize me in the comments if you'd like, but these are my picks for this week. Let's begin. Before I pick the first game, I just want to go over last week's results. Didn't do very well. Finished with an 8-6 record picking games for week 10. I took a lot of bold predictions like the Bengals beating the Steelers. I'm going to do a little less of that today. Overall for the season, I'm 93-53 picking games, about 64% hit rate, if you will. So yeah, looking to get a little bit better than recent weeks. 8-6 is the worst that I've posted since I started doing this. I think I did it one other week, but I don't remember which one it was. So hopefully we'll do better today. Starting with the Thursday night football game, the Cardinals versus the Seahawks. I'm going to go with the hot hand in this one. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and the Cardinals to pick up a short week victory on the road in Seattle at the newly named stadium. I forget what it is, Lumen Field now from CenturyLink. The Seahawks defense is just trash, and I don't know if they're ever going to be able to figure it out. And you go up against a guy like Kyler Murray who can, oh yeah, I'm going to throw down the field to DeAndre Hopkins, who you have to chase for 20 yards, and then you're going to chase me for 40 yards, and then we're going to set back up and do it all over again. So that's just completely unfair. The Seahawks cannot get any sort of pass rush established despite rushing 5, what seems like almost all the time. Their best bet would be to just drop, 9 into coverage and then just rush 2, I guess. I don't know. But the Seahawks need to figure something out with Jamal Adams, because using him as your primary pass rusher, I know he's probably the best at it given what you have on the defensive line. But they got to figure something else out. And they're going to stop Kyler Murray. I don't think getting pressure is the answer, and they can't get pressure anyway. So they might as well try something new. Moving on to the Eagles and the Browns. Eagles, hilariously enough, have added Jordan Howard to the practice squad today via the waiver wire. So that's interesting, but at the same time, I don't think it means all that much. Still, the Eagles seem to be just treading water at 3-5-1 despite leading the division. It appears nobody in the NFC East is ready to win it. I think the Browns, with all the attrition that they've suffered and, the crazy game and the weather that they had last week, I still think this is a good football team looking for its first winning season in the longest time that I can remember. So I'm going to go with the Browns for this game to beat the Eagles. Eagles are still flailing a little bit. Coaching decisions are piling up left and right, week to week. So, it might even be a shootout, depending on what the Eagles do on offense against this Browns defense. But I think with the fact that it's Kevin Stefanski controlling the ball with the running game, they'll be able to win this one pretty handily. Next, we have the Falcons and the Saints. Drew Brees not likely to play. Missed some time with the injured ribs and collapsed lung. So it's the Jameis Winston show from here on out. Falcons coming off the bye week, the fresher legs of the two teams. So I'm going to go with the Falcons in an upset. Maybe things don't start off too well for the Jameis Winston experience in New Orleans. Bengals and Washington football team. I swear to God, if you keep that name, there's reports that might be permanent. So I think that's dumb. I'm fine with it for this year. I would be fine with it for a second year. But for the rest of my life, no, I don't think so. That's just laziness. Bengals and Washington football team matchup isn't the greatest in terms of intrigue, but I think the Bengals should win this game. The Washington football team is just way too banged up, and I think the fact that they have sort of an emergence of T. Higgins and this offense this year. I think the Bengals are the better team. I'm hesitant to go with Washington football team just because of the amount of attrition they've gone through. So I'm going to go with the Bengals to win this one. Next, we have the Lions and the Panthers. According to reports, Teddy Bridgewater looks like he's going to be cleared to go with that MCL sprain. So he's trending in the right direction. I think he's going to start this game against Detroit. If it was not going to be Teddy Bridgewater, I would pick Detroit. Since it's looking like it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater, I'll go with the Panthers for this one to beat the Lions and see you at the end of the season, Matt Patricia. Steelers, Jaguars. Last week I picked the Bengals to upset the Steelers. I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go with the Steelers because that is just the smart thing to do. The Jaguars present an interesting opponent, maybe one that could be considered a trap game, but I think this is a worse roster than what Cincinnati has in terms of quarterback and everything else. So it's hard not to pick the Steelers despite, I've always said, the hot hand fallacy. I've said that, tons of times. Eventually, their winning streak has to come to an end. It's going to happen. Maybe it doesn't happen until week 16. Titans versus Ravens, a couple teams that are have seen better days. Titans especially. I think this is going to be the one where they sort of get back into the win column. The Taylor Lewan injury looks like it's affecting them more than they would like to admit. But I think the Titans are still the better team at this point. The Ravens just have a problem with the passing game because it's just not worked out with the tools that they put around Lamar Jackson. What they should do, honestly, is, free J.K. Dobbins, number one, and then let Lamar Jackson do what he did that won him the MVP award. Because the being forced to throw the ball down the field to Marquise Brown, who's just, he hasn't turned a corner this year. He's just putting up dud after dud. And then your other options are Willie Snead and Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a great tight end, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you were hoping to have, more of an aerial attack, and it just hasn't transpired. So go back to the basics, go back to what works for you. But for this game, I'm going to pick the Titans. Next, we have the Patriots and the Texans. I think this is an upset going with the Texans, at least in my opinion. Given the fact that home games don't really mean anything, I think Houston is going to play better at home, given the weather elements that they faced last week in Cleveland that sort of, derailed what they want to do on offense, and that's get the ball to Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks. The injuries at running back are a concern, but I think Deshaun Watson is still good enough where he can pick apart this Patriots defense that is basically a shell of its former self, given all the opt-outs and injuries. As far as Cam Newton goes and the offense for the Patriots, I still expected to score points and make a game out of it. But, with Deshaun Watson on the other side and the explosive potential that they have on offense to basically score in a given play, compared to the Patriots offense that is much more time possession oriented, I think I would give the edge to the Texans here, especially if they were to jump out to a double score lead, multi-score, two-score lead, however you want to say that. Next, we have the Dolphins and the Broncos. This one's pretty easy for me. It's the Tua Tagovailoa show. 3-0 since he took over as the starting quarterback. Broncos are flailing at this portion of the season. Could be an upset by Drew Lock, but I don't think it's in the cards. Jets and Chargers. This is another easy one. No reason to pick the Jets for any reason unless I see something kind of peculiar pop up in the reports. So, for this one, very easy pick. I really hope that they win because I don't want this to be the reason that Anthony Lynn gets fired, is some sort of weird scenario where the Jets magically win a game and then we have to talk about that for a week, right? Next, we have the Packers and the Colts. Both teams look fantastic. I think the Colts are living up to the potential that I thought of them as a surprise team in the AFC this year to make the playoffs. And early on, I was kind of suspect, but they've really been putting it together, especially on defense. But I am going to go with the Packers in this situation. I think I just trust Aaron Rodgers a little bit more than Phillip Rivers, even though that he's played better in recent weeks. It's one of those situations where I have to see it to believe it. So this is a big-time statement game, I think, for both teams, but more so the Colts than anybody, because if they're able to knock off the Packers this week, they'll be definitely putting their stamp on the invite to the playoffs, if you will, that, hey, we're a good team. We belong in this conversation. Look what we just did to Green Bay. So that would be an interesting outcome, but I'm going to pick against that just because I want to see it happen first. Next, we have the Cowboys and the Vikings. I'm going to go with the Vikings. Injury reports are kind of scary for Minnesota right now with the C.J. Ham being placed on the COVID list. He's an integral part to that running game, leading the way for Dalvin Cook. Ezra Cleveland hasn't practiced for 2 days. That is very scary given that we could have a platoon of turnstiles at the right guard position against Dallas. Thankfully, it's against Dallas, whose defense is questionable at best in all facets. And, if we get into a shootout, which likely could happen given the weapons that Dallas does have at the wide receiver position, it would be interesting. But I think with the fact that we have Dalvin Cook, he should be able to gash this defense, CJ Ham or not, for, probably 100, 150 yards. Next, we have the Chiefs and the Raiders. So this will be a revenge game for Kansas City after dropping the first game of the series to the Raiders. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs to split the series 1-1. Coming off the bye week, they should be well rested, have a very good game plan for this one, the second time out. Then we go to the Monday night game with the Rams and the Bucks. Very good primetime lineup this week. I'm going to go with the Rams, and that's really not based in any sort of analysis. Just this gut feeling that maybe there's something happening in Tampa Bay that's sort of off kilter for some reason. I have no real justification for it. Just I feel like I'm just, like the Rams feel like the right choice, and it's probably not going to be, given the fact that I think Tom Brady really wants to make a statement in this season, and this would be another place to do it on prime time Monday Night Football. So I'm going to go with my gut instinct, and I consider the Rams upsetting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be an upset in and of itself, not just because of the records, but I think if I were to give my opinion, Tampa Bay probably does have the better roster. So that's going to do it for Week 11 picks. These are the picks on the board. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.